This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host, Keith Angle, on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good evening, everybody. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk's College Football Huddle. How's everybody doing tonight? Oh, guys, I'm not feeling great, but I'm going to give it a go. We'll go as long as we can, I promise, and that'll probably be all the way. It's just the heat, maybe. The studio's a little warm tonight, so I want to thank everybody that's watching live on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, wherever else in the universe you might be getting TGI Sports Talk, and specifically the College Football Huddle tonight. This show will also replay on Roku, so get those Roku devices, guys. We're really starting to move upwards on the Roku devices, so please get them installed. This show will air pretty much every morning now until next Wednesday night's live show. We'll be on live, except on a weekend, Saturday and Sunday. So let's do this for you. Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. You'll see this show replayed on the Roku, the ESPN. Don't I wish? No disrespect to the Northeast Streaming Sports Network, but we're building towards ESPN, I guess, on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. And kudos to Mac McGrath and Lynn McGrath for the growth of that network. Guys, I've been trying to do a little shout out to some of the groups, and I know I've done this group before, but because this group is one of the first that was really open their arms to TGI Sports Talk 2 years ago almost now. We'll be coming up on our second anniversary of the show of TGI Sports Talk, right? Some of our shows have come along since that time. But August 7th, 2020, we started. And this group and this gentleman, to me have been instrumental in the success of TGI Sports Talk and the shows that I present here, as well as Northeast Streaming Sports. But other groups, and guys, there's hundreds of them that I belong to, and I thank all of them. But the guys who have been more proactive in reaching out to me and interacting with me, I'd like to give a little shout out to. Tonight, again, I want to shout out to the sports authorities and the amazing John Gonzalez. John, again, was one of the first people to reach out to me when I was starting this show and asking me to share content and such. And I appreciate John's the ability to do that John gave me, and also all the support that he's given the show. He comes in the show sometimes, and John and his John's the admin, and if you want to say owner, I don't know how John wants to refer to himself, but that's fine. He's also got some great moderators over there. The great Reverend Tom Bryce from SportsWire Radio. You see some of his shows on Northeast Streaming Sports as well. Also Brian Reed, John Mitchell, Christopher. I'm going to mispronounce your name, Christopher, and I'm sorry. How about if I just say Christopher P. and David Volta and Anthony Aguero? And if there's anybody else I've forgotten, I really apologize. But it's John Gonzalez that I want to thank here, as well as all you guys. Join this group, guys. He's approaching 3,500 people on his group. So great stuff over there by John. And again, we thank him, and we'll give a little shout out later in the show as well. Tonight, let's see who's here tonight, by the way, before we talk about what we're going to talk about. The Mad New Yorker is here. Good morning. Good morning. I guess I'm used to seeing Carlos on Fridays now. It's not morning. It better not be morning, because I'm awful tired if it's 7 o'clock in the morning. But good evening, Carlos. Good to have you with us. I'm sure we'll have some of our other regulars in tonight. Again, I apologize for not being on live last week and playing a repeat, but it was a good show, I think, that I played with Larry Sorensen and Jim Behringer commenting on the USC and UCLA news. And some stuff specifically as it relates to the ACC, and we'll get Larry on again soon, and Jim, but Larry specifically, because there's going to be lots of news in the ACC, and we're gonna talk about it. I'm probably going to talk a lot of realignment tonight, and if you guys have got topics, I want to address those, especially as it relates to the realignment, which is going to be ongoing, guys. This is not done. So we'll talk a little bit about the Pac-12 and Big 12. That they were talking about a potential merger that would not have involved all the teams in the Pac-12, which I'll get into as well. We'll talk about some of those teams and what could happen and some of the parallels with some previous situations. We'll talk about some of the reasons UCLA may have made this move to the Big Ten. We'll talk about what's next. Who are the Big Ten and the SEC going after next? What's the Big 12 going to do? Are we going to have 2 or 3 big giant conferences? Can a third conference be salvaged? Notre Dame. Everybody thinks Notre Dame's not going to make a move. They are. Good evening, Anthony Price. Good to have you with us tonight, Anthony. He's got his Commanders logo up. Good thing it's not an NFL show, and I don't mispronounce the Commanders and pronounce it Redskins. I'll have people all over me. Anyway, Notre Dame, we'll talk about what they may or may not do and why they would do so. People think they're locked in where they are because it's a big money deal for Notre Dame. I guarantee you there's more money for them elsewhere. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then anything else you want to talk to, we'll go around the world of college sports and we'll see what else might be going on and what you might want to talk about. Why realignment? I'm not sure I understand your question, Carlos. Give me a little context to that question. Why realignment? What else would you like to call it? We had an alignment. We now have a different alignment, and there's going to be continued changes to that alignment. That's what you refer to as realignment. The Pac-12 and the Big 12, as you know, have been in talks for the last couple of weeks about a potential merger. Now, those talks have come crashing down. Would it have benefited both conferences? I mean, you could argue right now the Pac-12 the Big 12 is no better than the Pac-12 and what's left of it once Oklahoma and Texas is gone. So I don't know who this benefits more, who a potential merger would benefit more. Neither one of these leagues has an elite school left. Well, Oregon is, but again, not a blue blood. Oklahoma State will be the biggest named school left in the Big 12. Is this the end of the Pac-12? I think so, Carlo. Or you're not Carlos, you're Anthony. I think it is, and we'll talk more about why. Let me just talk a little bit about. Let me get to Carlos' comment here. He's trying to explain himself. Why are you going to discuss this much? Why wouldn't I? What else are you discussing in the offseason? What you talk, Carlos? Give me another topic. I'll discuss it. They're still lost on what to do. Yeah, they are, and I'm trying to help them. If they would put it back the way it was, and again, Carlos, we have to have this discussion. There's only so much I can talk about without games to discuss, right? And this is news. It's got to be discussed show after show. And there's new content. The Pac-12, if they were going to merge with the Big 12, not every school was going. Stanford, for instance, stood a very good chance of becoming the modern-day Connecticut. If you remember when the Big East dissolved, Connecticut got left behind. They were a league without a school. Stanford was not likely going to the Big 12. They don't fit. They don't fit the model. Those schools aren't really great academic schools, any of them, in the Big 12, and that matters. It still matters, guys. We can talk about this being they're getting paid and they're professionals and they're the minor leagues of football, and we can talk about it any way you want, but academics still matter. That's why schools are after Notre Dame. Yes, they got a high football profile, but Stanford could get left behind, or Stanford might get invited to the Pac-12 or to the Big Ten. Because remember something, if they want USC, bringing Stanford in with USC would make all kinds of sense because Notre Dame already plays Stanford and USC every year. So they'd be able to maintain those rivalries. They'd be able to have kind of a West Coast rivalry, if you will, between USC and UCLA and Stanford. But make no mistake about it, the academics matter. Stanford, not interested in going to the Big 12. They'll fend their own way. They may not even be interested in going to the Big 10 because they can't even add out there. I mean, they're going to have 16 teams now. They've got 14 now, and they call themselves the Big 10. So why Stanford want to go there? Just kidding. So Big 10 schools are for the most part, very strong academic institutions. And that's why Notre Dame fits the profile there, as well as being in the right region, which doesn't matter in college football, obviously, and also having a very high profile. But Stanford could very well just say no. There's a lot of money involved, but you can remember this is a school still known for its academics. And I don't think, and probably something the USCs and UCLAs probably aren't really thinking about when they're thinking about the $65 million they're going to get from the Big Ten. They aren't thinking about when they have to send their schools or their teams that don't make any money from the West Coast to New Jersey and play Rutgers, the women's field hockey team, or to Maryland. Stanford might say, no, we're not interested. $65 million sounds like a lot of money to you guys, right? It's like not even 1%. It's got to be more than 1%. It's not even 10%. Jesus, maybe it's 1%. The entire UCLA budget for sports, which is, by the way, $101 million in debt. That's why UCLA is going to the Big Ten, FYI. What do we got here? No ACC or Pac-12. Very good chance ACC is going to get poached, as we'll talk about here in a little bit. And we can talk about it. We can mix these conversations up because they're all related. The ACC is going to get poached, right? Clemson, Florida State, certainly high in the SEC's, the SEC's radar. Miami and North Carolina, very high on the Big Ten's radar. You guarantee you, the Big Ten's got a footprint from the West Coast to the East Coast. You don't think they want to get south? Guaranteed Miami will be in the Big Ten. Hello, Mickey Delaney. Where are those Washington teams going to end up? Here's the thing. Washington will make out okay. Washington either ends up in the Big Ten, could end up in the ACC. I don't know. If the ACC tries to save itself, like the Big 12 is trying to save itself, maybe Washington and Oregon could go there. More likely to go to the Big 12 or the Big 10. I would think if they were going to the Big 10, the shoe would have fallen already. I don't know how hot the Big 10 might be for these schools. Remember, they bring two more schools in now. They got to split this $65 million two more ways. Fewer than 2% of NCAA athletes make it to the pros. Education is important. Agreed, Rick. Agreed. And you know what? I say the Big Ten has a very high academic profile, right? And it's true. So they've gone after schools with that type of profile as they go after USC and UCLA, and Notre Dame would fit that profile. The SEC has some very good academic schools as well. These are not bad academic schools. Big Ten going after Miami. Miami, listen, you guys may not realize this. And for all of Miami's history, yes, the Hurricanes. Oops, where are we going? The Hurricanes. For all of Miami's history and, the Ray Lewises and the Michael Irvins of the world that have come through that school. This is one of the best academic schools in the country. And I can attest to that firsthand, as my stepson is a graduate of that school and easily was able to move on to, Chapel Hill for his doctorate. This is a very, very, very good academic school in Miami, who's ready to make a big leap back into the big picture in college football, by the way. Anybody who doesn't think academics matter in this, it still does. I think I missed something here, but Anthony, you were having a slow moment, but I got the Big Ten joke. Well, we don't math very well here either. Rick will attest to our Perth education, not necessarily getting us up to speed on math that well. Now, again, no disrespect to Mr. Jennings. Does it make sense to have a Big Ten conference when 14 schools and soon to be 16? I don't get it. So what's next? I mean, what's next for these schools? What's next for the? Well, let's look at this first. Let's look at these conferences. I just started to talk about this. Does the Pac-12 try to save itself? I don't think it can. I really do not think the Pac-12 can save itself. And by the way, while we're talking about this, how short-sighted does it look today that the ACC, what the hell am I just going on with these texts? Hold on a second, guys. I've gotten like 10 texts. I don't know who this is. I have no idea who this is. I guess it's a poker thing I belong to. Anyway, let's turn that off. How short-sighted does it look now, the ACC and the Pac-12, to have voted no on a 12-team playoff? Right now, they're virtually shut out, especially come 24. The only way they had to get in, because remember, with this 12-team alignment that the SEC commissioner wanted, there was going to be 6 automatic bids. The 5 Power Fives, and one of the group of 6, the highest ranked. They're not going to get that deal when this comes up for vote again, by the way. How stupid do these conferences look now in hindsight? The Utahs, the Washingtons, if they should rebound, even Oregon, are not going to have a path to the playoff with 4 teams and whatever it becomes after this, because they aren't going to get the deal they got before. Political science is strong where? Miami? So is chemistry, by the way. I can speak firsthand. It is a mess. It's only going to get worse. I've tried to tell you this from the beginning, Carlos. I mean, history matters. These schools like UCLA, and believe me, this started, again, back in 2012. Well, probably before that. But let's just say that was the big domino. Regional football. It's a regional sport with a national appeal, but they want it all national. The fans get crapped on. The other sports get crapped on. All for the almighty dollar. And by the way, guys, guess what? You're going to be paying big bucks to watch it. Because when ESPN gets this SEC contract, you watch how many of these games you're going to have ESPN Plus to watch. You watch. It's going to happen in the NFL. It's going to happen in college. And that's what they want. Make no mistake, all of these moves are made with the idea of making college football, it might already be there, the number 2 spectator sport in this country behind the NFL. And it may already be there. But you didn't have to blow it up and destroy regional play, destroy long-time rivalries. Yes, I know history doesn't matter in sports. If you saw my eye roll, it was purposeful. On purpose. Excuse me, guys. Not feeling great tonight. We'll see how long we go tonight. Anyway, we're going to be all over the place tonight, and it's fine. Keep your comments coming. Not sure what you got here. It's funny. You're telling me what a mess the NIL is and the transfer portal, Carlos, but some of these things you loved early on. I told you from the very day the NIL was legal that it was a slippery slope that would destroy college sports as we know it. And make no mistake, college football, as we know it, is no more. They chose they chose big name games every day, a whole slate of big name games over charm and regional relevance and rivalries. Yeah, you'll see some of them, and new ones will spring up, yes. But a conference that's 100 years old, like the Pac-12, is going to be no more very soon. I know things got to change. That'll be the next thing I see from Carlos. See if it came up. What do you got, Rick? Many local players are drafted in the MLB, starting with Dale Stavich and the Marlins from Amsterdam, round 8, leaving today for Fort Lauderdale. Great kid. Yep, little baseball note. Rick, just so you know, we're going to talk, and I'll probably throw some of this stuff in tomorrow morning. On Start It Up, we're going to cover the Major League Baseball draft a little bit in our reporting because there's not much else news to talk about in sports, especially in Major League Baseball. But back to the football, where was I? Who's next? The Big 12? Even if they bring in Washington and Oregon and Arizona State, let's say, or Colorado, I mean, boy, these guys are like a bunch of old ladies. I now offended old ladies on the show. They don't stop once they start going here. Does that even save the Big 12? Again, I love Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy, but when that's your marquee program, now I guess if you brought Washington, Oregon in, they would be the marquee programs. But I don't know if it's enough. They probably would have been better off merging. Maybe Stanford. Look, at Stanford might have to go back to the Mountain West or someplace where they don't fit because again, there is an academic profile that a lot of these leagues have. Believe me, none of those schools in the Mountain West have the academic profile of Stanford. Stanford would fit in the Big Ten academically, not regionally. Anthony, you got the joke about the math. I mean, again, does anybody even care about a map? You don't need a map anymore in college football. Or maybe you do. I mean, if you were cryogenically frozen in 1960 and you woke up today, you'd be like, there are 2 teams for Los Angeles playing in the Big Ten? All about money. So the Big 12, I don't think they can really survive. I don't think the ACC can survive because I don't think, with 1, 2 marquee programs, if you want to, well, maybe 3 if you want to include Florida State and Miami. Potentially, but they're not on the level anymore, obviously, of Clemson even, and the big boys in the SEC and the big boys in the Big Ten. Doesn't mean they won't be, but will they be consistently? I don't know. So the ACC and the Big 12, I think, are dead. It becomes a matter of who the Big 10 and the SEC are going to pick off from the ACC. Probably the Big 12 schools are probably done as far as it goes with the Big 10 SEC. Potentially that'll change. But there are some marquee schools, guys. How come I got the NFL? Hold on, I have to sneeze. Oh, rough one today, gentlemen. ACC. Let's just go through the ACC. I want to go through the ACC, and I want to go through the Big 12, and I want to go through the Pac-12. And see if any of these schools, you guys can comment, do they fit the Big 10? Because we're going to 20. We're going to 24 teams in these conferences. Well, we should start with Notre Dame. The big fight's going to be for Notre Dame. Notre Dame's going to the Big 10 or going to the SEC. It's only a matter of time. They don't have to rush. But for you guys who think they don't need to go, they make plenty of money on their own and blah, 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 blah. Unless NBC coughs up, and I think Notre Dame's asked them for about $75 million, unless they cough up $75 million for, 6 Notre Dame games, they're not going to stay independent. They're going to go to the Big 10 or SEC, where they can go from 25-ish million dollars a year TV contract to 65 or 70 or more, because those TV contracts are going to end with a B. It's just how many. Well, what you're going to pay for, by the way, don't forget this. You're going to pay for this. Whether it's cable, basic cable subscriptions, whether it's streaming services, because that's the way of the world today. All of these contracts are going to get pushed to streaming services at some point. Even ESPN, they're going to put this stuff most likely on ESPN Plus, which I believe is just going up again. I bought ESPN Plus. I think I was paying $2.99 a month. I'm paying $6.99 now, and I expect it to go up probably $4. So Notre Dame eventually will succumb to the lure of the money. Oh, and also, when these schools go to 10-game conference schedules, they're not going to be able to schedule a team from the Big 10 or 2 teams from the Big 10, which they play one team every year, and they play USC, who's now in the Big 10, and they play Purdue every year. There's 3 teams from the Big 10. They're not going to be able to play any of those games, most likely. Same thing if they went to the SEC, or I'm sorry, same thing in the SEC. And I guess Notre Dame doesn't play as many of those schools on a regular basis. What are they going to do? Are they going to schedule a full schedule of ACC and Pac-12 leftovers? That's not going to get them anywhere near a playoff. Maybe Pitt moves. Let's take a look, Carlos. So Notre Dame I started with. And we'll talk more about Notre Dame. There are, how many schools are in the ACC? I think it's 16. 2, 4, 6, 7, 9, 11, 13, 14, if my math is right. 14 schools, in the ACC right now. Let's go through these schools quickly. Wake Forest. Wake Forest is going to end up in one of the leftover leagues, right? Let's just assume for a second you're going to have 2 major conferences and you're going to have a couple below it, Big 12 type leagues. We're really going to fall into the group of 5 now, so it'll be a group of whatever. But they're going to fall into a lesser league below these 2 major conferences. Probably so, too, is North Carolina State. Clemson will find their way most likely to the SEC. No, I'm not including Notre Dame, right? Because Notre Dame does not play in the football conference. They have a relationship or, whatever. I don't know what they call it or they term it now. But they don't. They played one real season because of COVID. They are not. Every other sport is full-time in the ACC, not the football school, not the football team. Clemson, they'll come out a winner here. They're going to probably end up in the SEC and do very well for themselves. They've got nothing to worry about. Louisville, again, remember, these are football decisions that affect the basketball school programs and everything else that doesn't even make any money. Florida State, probably going to be on the SEC's radar. Most likely will get in the SEC. Syracuse, start looking at the AAC, guys. Maybe Wake Forest goes there too. Or maybe Wake Forest goes into some reconfiguring of the Big 12. We'll go through those schools too. Boston College. Maybe a new East Coast. Maybe this is a chance for a new Big East to form. I don't know. When you talk about, and it would have to be some of the leftovers from the ACC as well, so it won't be a true Big East, but at least it'll have some regional sensibilities. I mean, Boston College will not have a home. So they either look at an ACC or AAC, or they look to form a new league with the Syracuses and the Louisvilles and the Pittsburghs. Carlos mentions Pittsburgh, maybe. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to go anywhere. Not to one of the big conferences. I don't think they fit the profile of the SEC or the Big Ten. And by the way, they would not be a good program in either. You see 15. Where are you counting? 2, 4, 6, 7, 9, 11, 13, 14 teams. Atlantic and Coastal. Count again, Carlos. 14. Forget about Notre Dame, not in there. Where are you getting 15? Guys, you're killing me. Let me count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I don't know where you guys are getting 15. Penn State is not in the AC. What are you talking about? Did we say? Maybe I'm counting the wrong school. Carlos asked about the ACC. So, Rick, if you're talking about the Big Ten, you may very well be right there. Big Ten, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm really good at counting on here, aren't I? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They get 16. 2, 4, 6. Nope, they got 15. 15 in the Big Ten, 14 in the ACC. Okay, we're good now? Stop counting Notre Dame. They don't play a league schedule, Carlos. You cannot count Notre Dame. I'm talking about football exclusively. Football exclusively. But if Notre Dame decided to align with the Big Ten, then all those schools are leaving the ACC and going to the Big Ten. But forget about the rest of the sports for now because none of them matter. They're going to go where football tells them to go. So there's 14 teams in the ACC, not 15 with Notre Dame. Doesn't work that way. Notre Dame's an independent with an affiliation to the ACC for scheduling purposes only. Do they? Well, that tells you a little about the ACC. Probably because all the other sports play there. Maybe they list them, Carlos. That's probably why. They wish. By the way, if somehow they had them, it doesn't going to matter. Notre Dame's, listen, the ACC had their chance at Notre Dame 2 years ago during COVID when they let them in. They let them in to play the league schedule that year, the full league schedule, because Notre Dame could not put a schedule together. The ACC had them over a barrel, and very similar to their ridiculous vote no on expanding the college football playoff, they didn't hold Notre Dame's feet to the fire when they had a chance. If you want in now, you're in for good. And maybe the ACC would have a chance to survive. Maybe they could have gone and picked off some of these other schools from other conferences. I wouldn't be don't get me wrong, I wouldn't be any happier. Anyway, let's continue our countdown here. I'll go back to your comments here. What's Rick got? Rick's got something before I go. Yeah, they're probably counting Notre Dame, Rick. But again, Notre Dame is not playing there in football. But they probably count them as a league member because they are in every single sport except football. Which is probably why they do that. And by the way, Wikipedia you can't trust anyway, because I can go change that to 14 right after this show. There's our Notre Dame expert, Kenny Gifford. Good evening, Kenny. Notre Dame played one season, and that's it. Won the league championship and then lost to Clemson, as we know. And as I just got through saying, you know, the ACC had their chance, and in retrospect, they probably lost their league for good. And Kenny, you can pipe up on this at any point. We're talking about some of the next dominoes to fall in realignment, and there is no way Notre Dame stays independent for much longer. They don't have to go now, but when you're talking about $25 million for a TV contract with NBC, which now they're asking for 75, and the reason they're asking for 75 is because if they go to the Big Ten, they're going to get 65 or $70 million out of that cut. Same with the SEC. Notre Dame will be in the Big Ten by 2025, if not 2024. If I'm a Disney ESPN Sports, I purchased Notre Dame to feature on ESPN Plus. Well, ESPN, Disney and ESPN are affiliated. Well, yeah. Well, they already have the SEC. Don't forget, they got this huge contract. They got in the billions. Remember, with a B, that they're going to be paying the SEC. Plus, they want to be in the bidding rights for the Big Ten. Big Ten's going to be huge. That TV contract will be the biggest one in the Big Ten because they stretch from the East Coast to the West Coast. And they'll be able to dominate the Saturday schedule from noontime to 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. Big Ten, Big Ten, Big Ten, Big Ten, big games every night, every slot, every week. I understand the economics of this and why it's being done. I don't like what they're doing to the fabric of the game. It's funny, I could have swore I saw Kevin Kernan pop in here. Very weird. I must have seen the pop up from him. What do we got here? So yes, I agree. What do you got here, Kenny? They have to play 5 ACC games. They have to play 5 games against ACC opponents, so they don't count as league games for the ACC. But yes, they have an agreement with them to play 5 games. Is it 5 games? Is it that many? By the way, that'll go away as soon as that can be bought out. And Kenny is the first one always to say here, follow the money. It's all about money. And unfortunately it is. NBC needs to pick it up. Yeah, well, you know, look at NBC. There's nothing to say NBC won't be involved in this Big Ten negotiation. Everybody's alive there. You know, speaking of television contracts, the Pac-12 has a window to renegotiate their contract through August 4th, I believe. And you're going to find out what the TV networks think of what's left of the Pac-12 by August 4th. And that's when I think you'll find out the Pac-12 knows they're in their death knell. My wife's out of town at a funeral. I don't think she'd like to come home and find me baked on the floor here. Just saying. If I'm Apple, just buy NBC. Well, it's funny you mention Apple because Apple and Amazon are probably going to put all their money into the NFL and Major League Baseball. I don't know that they're going to have they got money up the yazoo, but they're really going after the NFL package. I don't want to get into a big NFL discussion here. We can certainly do that on the Sunday Stream of Consciousness show, but Apple and Amazon are going to be hot and heavy after the NFL package. And the way we watch sports is about to change, guys. Big games on free TV is about to go away. Not good, but it's true. What do we got here? Notre Dame there you go. I mentioned that probably just as you were coming on. They asked for $75 million because if they join the Big Ten, right now they got $65 million in the bag. It'll probably be more than that. What do you got? And if network picks them up, then it's independent for sometimes. Well, that's what I was. I think what you're saying there is what I was getting at earlier, Kenny. There's two things at play here: money for Notre Dame, and also the ability to schedule a decent and worthwhile schedule that gives them a chance to get into a college playoff every year. Because if these conferences go to 10 conference games, there's going to be no room for the Notre Dames or any. Kenny and stupid fingers. I think we got it. No, I wouldn't bake you, but on the golf course, Paul is gone for 4 days. Hope she's having more fun than my wife. What was I getting at here? Lost all my train of thought. Oh, Notre Dame again. Yes, they're going for money. They're going for scheduling. And by the way, as we said at the top of the show, and Kenny, you can certainly pipe up here because I know you came in partway through. Notre Dame's going to go where they fit best academically. And to me, they fit best academically in the Big Ten because they kind of mirror a lot of those schools. It makes sense regionally. It makes sense academically. And it would also make sense for them to try to get Stanford in this league as well because of it and because of their year in and year out rivalry with USC, like USC has, with Notre Dame. And that would allow Notre Dame to have two of the teams that they schedule every single year remain on their schedule. Well, three, if you count Purdue, and they usually schedule one other Big Ten game a year. Every team, yeah. Sure they do. Who doesn't? Big revenue, big money. Look at you knock off Notre Dame, even in an off year, it's a big deal. And by the way, Notre Dame's, and hopefully Marcus Freeman continues this. Notre Dame's no longer that, and they went through a long stretch. And Kenny, I know you can attest from, Jerry Faust right through Charlie Weiss. They throw a good year in here and there, but all through Jerry Faust, Bob Davies, Kyle Whittingham, Charlie Weiss. I don't think I'm missing anybody. Oh, there's a guy George O'Leary had the job for a day because he lied on his resume. They went through a lot of 7-5 seasons, right? 6-6. That's not Notre Dame's profile anymore. Notre Dame's a 10-win team pretty much year in and year out. Yes, you'll have a year, that's an aberration that you fall backwards, but they're back, to being one of those elite 10-win teams every year. So the luster's back on that program. And again, it's about more than just football when it comes to Notre Dame. It's about everything that comes with it. It's the allure of the school. And again, I'll keep saying it. The academics matter. The academics matter. Let's see. What do we got here? Everybody wants to play them, yes, but they demand well, that's true. And if Notre Dame joins the league, now they're only going to have to pay out that money, twice a year, 3 times a year, because the rest will be conference games. At one point, they were paying 4 head coaches at a time. I'm trying to think who that might have been. I'm going to guess that was probably Bob Davies, Whittingham, Weiss, and maybe Kelly. Is that the 4? Let's see if I'm right. Okay, I've not had a lot of good things to say about Kelly recently. I almost said Chip Kelly. Brian Kelly recently, but Brian Kelly's a heck of a football coach, and Brian Kelly did a heck of a job at Notre Dame because he took over a program, as I just said, that was not the luster was off this program. And he did a really good job of restoring it. Just should have stayed there. Where am I? The old guy, but right on. I don't see. How about check that out? Sometimes the noggin works, Kenny. Sometimes the noggin still works. God, where was I, man? This is like the stream of consciousness show. Let's get back to the ACC, or did I do everybody? No, I only did one division. I started on Pittsburgh. They will not get an offer to join one of these super conferences. Miami, guaranteed Big Ten all day long. All day long. They want that presence in Florida, and they want the academic profile. And again, Miami Hurricanes, football tradition, problems off the field, but this is a really good academic school. Excellent academic school. Virginia Tech, I'm not sure. I don't see Virginia Tech fitting in the Big Ten or the ACC. They're going to be in one of the other leagues. Virginia most likely will get an invite, I would think, to the SEC, potentially the Big Ten. North Carolina, it looks like the Big Ten is all over North Carolina. Georgia Tech, no way. They go some satellite league. And Duke's going to be an interesting case study here because this is about football, but it affects basketball schools. We know what happened to the Big East schools when they realigned for football, and it screwed up Syracuse, it screwed up Georgetown, it screwed up Connecticut for a while in basketball. It really screwed these basketball teams. Duke's going to be an interesting situation when the ACC goes however it's going to go. Duke's going to be a college basketball power without a league. It fits academically with the Big Ten, but can they really take Duke in to play football when you've already got Maryland and Rutgers? And I'm not sure. Maybe. And if they take North Carolina, Duke's a natural fit because if they think about the basketball side at all, then Duke Notre Dame would be connected at the hip. But I'm not sure that they'll think that way because their wallets are all that do the thinking right now, right? And when I say wallets, about football, because basketball is as great as it is, college basketball, especially the NCAA tournament, it doesn't pay the bill like football does. What do you got here? Kenny, the game ended in a tie last night. Must be the Mohawks. They don't have a home run derby to decide it like the All-Star game. Another stupid thing we'll talk about on Sunday. Lou Holtz, I don't think I'm not sure when you say Lou Holtz. I would say that the last time this program had luster was with Lou Holtz. It faded from Lou Holtz and was restored by Brian Kelly. Unless you're saying they were paying Lou Holtz as one of those four guys. I don't think they were because he retired. He didn't get fired. He retired at the time. He did take a job in South Carolina later, but he left voluntarily, and I don't think they were paying him. So the streak is still intact. I guess that's with I think you guys are still talking about what's the need for a new stadium? Help me out here. I don't know if you guys are having your own conversation or what. Help me out. Just keep. I think you guys are. All right, you guys are on the baseball. I'm going to move on here. I think Notre Dame goes SEC. They definitely go SEC or Big Ten. Kenny, that part is. I would say, it's a no-brainer. There's no place else to go. ACC had their chance, missed it. Missed the boat badly. Big Ten, they fit perfectly. I know they don't care about regional, where you are in a region anymore, but Notre Dame just fits the Big Ten model so much better than the SEC, and I think that's where they go. Plus, they play a lot of those schools. They play USC every year, right? They play Purdue every year. They play another team on a rotating basis. For years, they played Michigan. They're playing Ohio State this year. They're still paying Lou Holtz. God bless him. Keep up with the program. I can't. You guys think we're on the Stream of Conscience show where I can just, veer off. Mickey, what do you got, buddy? No, it didn't. No, they were talking about another game, college summer league game, Mickey. It did not end in a tie, and if it did, I would have gone to sleep and not watch. In fact, I didn't watch a game anyway. We'll talk about it Sunday. I did watch the game, but it was not for the show. Mickey, speak to me, Mickey. I want your opinion as a Washington and I guess a Washington State fan both. Washington State, and we're going to go to the Pac-12 right now. We're going to talk about where those schools could end up. I'll skip the Big 12 for the moment, and let's go directly. Do not pass go. Come, I can't go down here. Why can't I scroll? All I'm doing is changing the size of my screen. Let's go to the Pac-12. We'll start with Washington. Mickey, I want your opinion. Pac-12 folds. Washington goes to A, the Big 10, B, the Big 12, which will not even come close to matching the Big 10 or the SEC, or they go a different way. I say still Oregon. Either Oregon and Washington. Let me put it this way. Oregon, Washington, Stanford, some combination of all three or two of those teams, all three in another from somewhere. Well, it could be all three in Notre Dame. Actually, now that I think about it, it could be all three in Notre Dame. I think go to the Big Ten. I'll make that statement right now. Mickey, where do you want your Washington Huskies to play? You don't know? You want them to stay in the Pac-12 and could keep a league with 100 years of history alive? I don't blame you, Mickey. 100 years of history. All gone. Give me a few bucks. Tri-Valley League. Well, maybe there's a chance to start up the Tri-Valley League again now with these teams that'll be left over here in the East, Rick. Although, don't feel the need to restrict yourself to the East. I mean, you should be able to recruit teams from California to the Tri-Valley League as well. All right, so let's go through the big. Where am I? The Pac-12. Oregon, I think, goes to the Big Ten. Washington State, good luck. Mountain West gets bigger. Some different league forms out west to take all the leftovers from the Big 12 and the Pac-12. We'll see. But they'll no longer be relevant. And not that they've been relevant in football, but at least they had a chance. At least they'd be playing the USCs and the UCLAs and the Washingtons every year. But there's another rivalry you can see gone, by the way, regional rivalry, Washington State, which may mean nothing to guys in New Jersey and New York, but it means a lot to people in Washington and in the West Coast. And it's been played how many times? 100? We should play in La La Land. If the Pac-12 died, then Big Ten. Yeah, I think that's where they'll end up, Washington. But Washington State, the Cougars, by the way, they're done. They'll play, but they're going to be a second level in a second level league. California, same thing. You're never going to see UCLA, Cal, Stanford. Well, you might see Stanford, Cal, depending on what they do. But again, not in a 100-year rivalry in a big or Pac-12. Who else? Oregon State, same situation as Washington State. Stanford, a wild card. Could end up in a Big Ten. They could tell the Big Ten, nope, we're not doing it because we're not sending athletes in sports that make no money. We're not paying all that money to ship them to Maryland and ship them to Piscataway, New Jersey to play a Big Ten schedule in girls softball. And I'm not picking on girls softball, but it doesn't make any money. The South, Utah. Utah is an interesting case. I got to tell you something. Utah gets really, really railroaded here, in my mind. Utah built this program up, playing out in the Mountain West, 2 undefeated seasons, played in a Sugar Bowl before they ever got to the Pac-12, finally get an invite to a power conference, They have to kind of rebuild their program to become a contender there and a real contender for a playoff spot, and to get the rug pulled right out from under them again. I know Utah lost 3 games last year, but at the end of the season, Utah was playing as good as anybody in the league. And I don't have a doubt in my mind they might have won a playoff game, at least if they'd gotten a chance last year. They would have been competitive. And I know I wanted Cincinnati in the playoff, but I can probably say they would have been more competitive than Cincinnati in that playoff. And Utah's got a really good team and has built a really good program, and they get the shaft here. Arizona State was where I was going next. Herm Edwards, by the way, it's a dumpster fire out there in Arizona State anyway. Why if Arizona and Arizona State go to the Big 12, it helps the Big 12 profile, not even a little bit. Arizona State has been relevant so little of the time in the Pac-12 that's not a get. So let's just say they end up in the Pac-12, which is going to be, again, a lower level league. You're going to have 2 powerhouses and all lower level leagues. Pac-12, do you think they're happy they voted against the expansion play of the playoffs now? God, can I get one more text? UCLA, we already know their plans. By the way, again, for those of you who joined us, and I should have taken a commercial break. I'm gonna take one at 8:00 here real quick. We'll do the Dream Ride, and I want to do the Spotlight group again. Right after we do this spot. UCLA, if you want to know why UCLA is heading to the Big Ten, pretty simple. $65 million a year, same as we talked about before. This team's athletic department is $101 million in the red. Hang on. Oh, I'm here. Colorado, maybe Big 12, but again, Big 12, look, if they could absorb all the Pac-12, they could absorb some of the leftovers from the ACC. They're not going to come close to matching the Big 10 or the SEC. They're just not. By the time they're done, there'll be at least 20 teams in those 2 leagues each, maybe 24. So maybe some of these schools that I've talked about not going do get an invite, but who else was I going to do here? Big 12. Let's do the Big 12 real quick, and we'll take a quick break, and I'll be right back. Oklahoma State. Look, at Oklahoma State maybe could get an invite to the Big 10 or someplace later on if they decide to go to 24 teams. That's a team that might have a chance. But I don't know. Baylor, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Kansas State, West Virginia, TCU, Texas Tech, and Kansas. Kansas will probably get a Big 10 invite because of basketball, but they can't compete in the Big 12. How are they going to compete in the Big 10? Who can't add? Pretty ugly. Guys, I'm going to take a quick break here. I promise you I will be right back. We're going to do a little commercial for the Dream Ride experience, which Northeast Streaming Sports is a big sponsor of here coming up in August. Please take a quick look, and we'll be right back.
The Hometown Foundation is excited to bring back the Dream Ride experience, August 26th to the 28th at Connecticut's Farmington Polo Club. Join us in celebrating the accomplishments of our Dream Riders while enjoying live music, a car and motorcycle show, family fun zone, pet adoptions, canine demonstrations, the Fireman's Chili Cook-Off, and much, much more. Get your tickets today.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, isn't he?
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
All right, guys, we're back. And I want to take one more quick time out here to just acknowledge again our Spotlight Group of the Week. I've done it at the top of the show, and I want to make sure I do it during the middle of the show going forward, too, so that we can get some a shout-out to some of great supporters of TGI Sports Talks and many of the other podcasts out there. John Gonzalez at the Sports Authority is one of the first groups I hooked up with when I started this show 2 years ago. And John has been a great supporter of this show, great supporter of many other shows. He's got a great group. Guys, if you haven't been out there, if you haven't joined the Sports Authority, John posts some really cool stuff. If you're an old-timer like me, there's really some good nostalgic stuff he posts. There's some good content from the Reverend Tom Bryce as well, who's from SportsWire, and some really good stuff there. So check it out. There's close to 3,500 members there now. And he's really helped TGI Sports Talk grow as we get towards 2,000 followers here. So thank you to John Gonzalez and the Sports Authorities on what we've done there. So we've talked about the dominoes for I'm not going to get into that. I want to talk about what you guys want to talk about and some of the other news around college football. Let's kind of jump around this last half hour. I'll give you guys the floor a little bit, and I see I got some comments here I'll get to. We'll jump around a little bit, and I'll fit in some news while we kind of take your okay, so this must be Kenny's hang on while you typed everything neatly here. Everybody should be independent and then have a 48 a playoff for 64. It won't work in football, Kenny. Now, 16 will work. And if I want to get my butt sued again by this dingling from YouTube, I would explain it to you. But I really, one lawsuit at a time is enough. And I joke, I'm not really getting sued. I only got threatened with a lawsuit. And guess what? I will repeat that scenario. But my scenario is out the window with what's going on here now. Did you see? I did see that. That was pretty funny. I wish I'd thought of that, Rick. I would have shared it. Maybe Saturday or Sunday. Send me a reminder and I'll queue up that video. Maybe play it Sunday during the show. Yes, to what, Kenny? Oh, gosh. Oh, let's scoot around here. Throw me some topics. Kenny, look at independence. I agree that your idea is not awful. It's no worse than what we're doing right now, but there's not going to be any money involved. And that's what this is all about, the super conferences, so they can get billions of dollars from the TV networks, and they can have marquee matchups every week. They have chosen, as I said earlier in the show, they have chosen big marquee matchups over the charm and historical matchups. The Washington and Washington States of the world, those rivalries don't matter to the new age running college football. All they care about is marquee. They want to be the number 2 sport to the NFL, number 2 spectator sport to the NFL, and that's all they care about. Fans lose, rivalries lose, schools lose. Oh, to Rick. Well, I don't know, guy. Well, there will all the big names would be there, but scheduling would be a nightmare. Without any conference races, what are you playing for? You're playing all year long just for seeding in this 48-team tournament, which is kind of what college basketball does, even though they do have leagues and conferences, obviously. But I'm not a big favorite. I do like conference rivalries. I do like conference races. I still think it lends something to the experience of a season, rather than just playing 12 games leading up to or 10 games leading up to a 6-game playoff. At least college football still keeps some integrity to their conference scheduling. Well, Kenny, don't punish them. It's going to sound terrible. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. Oh, let's see, guys. I got some news. Let's see if we got some news to talk about here. If I can get this story open, we'll take a look at it. I'm having some very interesting internet issues lately. I got a Kirby Smart story here I was going to share with you, but apparently I can't get there. Oh, come on, guys. Nobody wants to work with me. All right. So I've done something to my computer here. So Kirby Smart can't get the Florida coach to agree with him about moving the Georgia-Florida game to campus. They've been playing it off campus for a while now. I think for a while now. And it's also one of the biggest rivalries in college football, obviously, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Correct me anything I say wrong, Rick. They've been playing it in Jacksonville, Florida for years, I believe. And I have to agree with Kirby here. I think this game would be much bigger and bring much more excitement if it were played on the individual schools' campuses. That's just my opinion. I feel that way about every rivalry game, right? I don't really want to see. Listen, Army Navy to me could play at their respective. It's money, right? Again, they could play at their respective stadiums, and I think it'd be a better game. You know, the Red River rivalry. I don't want to see that played at Jerry Jones World. I want to see it played on campus. You know, what do you got here? Not hearing much on the Manning front. Well, there's not much to say. What are you going to say? The kid's got to play his senior season in high school still, and somebody really wants it. They do, right? I mean, Jesus, guys. Sorry, it's this poker. These guys, they get going. Giving me a headache. As far as Arch Manning goes, there'll be plenty of talk. You know, again, he's going to Texas, and until he says I'm going to the transfer portal for some reason, there's not going to be that much more news about Arch Manning until next year. There'll be some talk if he has a bad year in high school or something, but it's not going to matter. Oh, I got to hydrate here. So, Arch Manning, right now the excitement level of the announcement is over. The postscript where they had a huge influx of recruiting from his signing. I mean, Texas went from 30th in recruiting rank for 23. That is 23, right? To third in the course of 5 days. So that initial spark is done. Now we got a football season to play, with the quarterback that they can't think of his name, Quinn Ewan. Texas got a football season to play now. There's a lot going on there, man. If you're Steve Scarsezian, this is a tough time for them. They're going to be hated everywhere they go in the Big 12. There's going to be people in Texas who hate them for leaving their roots. Well, they already left their roots when they went to the Big 12 in the first place, I guess. They don't even want Oklahoma and Texas to be able to have any say in conference business, which you're probably right. The Big 12 should be able to say to Oklahoma and Texas, you don't get to vote on anything to do with this league going forward. You're leaving in 2 years or less. Well, 3 years or less. So anyway, what else we got? The ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips, he's going to explore all options, as we talked about, for reducing the revenue gap. Opposes college athletics to become a 2 or 3 gated community. Well, the ship has sailed, Jim. You screwed up twice, as I said earlier. You didn't hold Notre Dame's feet to the fire when you could have 2 years ago. And you voted no on the college football expansion. You killed your own league. Now, unless you really get proactive and get really quick now, and I'm not even sure you can do it, and go pilfer your own schools like Washington, like Oregon, I don't know, Oklahoma State, I don't know who else is left. What schools are left? Plus, you got an archaic TV contract that's going to go for another 15 years or something. You really screwed yourself, Jim Phillips and the ACC. What do you got here? You should have your studio at the beach. One day I will, maybe. I've done it on a cruise ship. I may have to do the Sunday show from the remains of a Kenny Chesney concert in August, my birthday weekend, at the Meadowlands. But I've done shows from cruise ships. I've done them from airport terminals. The beach is one place I have not done it. And don't forget, I got to have a Wi-Fi connection. Sometimes you guys have seen the cruise ships ones. Sometimes they're really good. Sorry. Other times they're really bad. All depends. You never know the internet quality, how good it's going to be out there. But I have fun doing it. I hope you guys enjoy it when I do them remotely like that, because I have a lot of fun doing it. I like doing it in the backyard on Sundays when it's nice and not a gazillion degrees where I'm going to burn the top of my head off. Okay, what else you guys got? Come on, throw something at me. You know what? I got something I want to go through here. If I can find the right mouse. I want to talk about had a couple stories here. Nick Saban, it's funny. Nick Saban is warning college football about this caste system. He's got a caste system warning about this mega conference growing. Well, not that he had anything to do with this, except being very successful. No, Mickey. No, I have not done one for my bathroom yet, but there's days where I thought it was going to come from there. So, Nick Saban says mega conferences will create more of a caste system, maybe in college football, and everyone has to decide if that's the direction we really want to go or not. The genie's out of the bottle, Nick. You should have spoke up long ago if this is how you feel. If you feel this is the wrong way to go, you're the most powerful guy in Alabama. You should have made your feelings clear on this a long time ago if that's how you really feel, and I doubt it is, by the way. So I found that kind of interesting. Also, I seem to remember him taking some shots at Kirby Smart and talking about the fact that they didn't use the NIL at Alabama. And yesterday he said that they had $3 million in NIL payouts, salaries, whatever you want to call it, last year at Alabama. So it's not like they're not using the system. And it's not the school, he said sarcastically. Kenny's going to work in the garden, water time. Listen, can you come down and get the water out of my lawn? I'm going to have to get out there every half hour tomorrow, move the sprinklers around because my lawn's going to go if I don't get out there. We got a nice steady rain the other day, and it's like it never happened. Oh, let's see what else. I did see something about, seems to be gone now. Deion Sanders. There was some Deion Sanders news here. Deion's donating half of his salary for a new football stadium at Jackson State. Say what you want about Deion. First of all, we all thought it was a joke when he took this job, and it was just, a publicity stunt for both the school and for, Neon. Pretty damn good coach. Now he's donating half his salary to improve the football facilities at the school. Not that he needs the money, but Nick Saban doesn't need the money either. Just saying. I think that's a pretty cool thing. Speaking of tone deaf, Florida quarterback Anthony Richardson's dumping AR-15 from his nickname. Oh my God! Who told him that was a good idea? And again, I understand. His name is Anthony Richardson. His number's 15. So he went by AR-15. I don't care what your stance is on guns. That's tone deaf. I'm sorry. Oh gosh, it makes me laugh. What else we got going in? Yeah, a sad story in college football. I want to bring this one up, and a tragic story. If I can find it here. I had this open, now it's gone. Oh, here it is. Oregon football player Spencer Webb, 22. He dies in a fall. He hit his head just a short distance from Triangle Lake in Oregon. It's a location popular for cliff jumping and natural rock water slides, and it's near Eugene, where the campus of Oregon is. And he fell, and by all accounts, this is an accident. But this is a young life snuffed out way too early, and our thoughts go out to his family, his girlfriend who was there, and the Oregon football team. It's just a sad thing. He was about to begin his 5th season there. He'd played all 14 games last year, caught 13 passes for 87 yards, all irrelevant information. But he's passed away at the young age of 22, and a young life snuffed out. So that's a bit of a sad note. What else we got going on here? It looks like the Mad New Yorker has returned. He had a cook for the kiddos, so at least we got that news out of the way. Yeah, it is sad news for the Ducks. Sad anytime there's this kind of story. And look, people are going to live their lives, and these are things people do. I mean, I don't say he did anything foolish here. I'll assume he didn't do anything foolish. These are, attractions that are popular for this type of activity, and things went badly. People will live their lives as they're going to live them, and, just a sad thing. So our thoughts and prayers are with the family there. What else we got here? Let's look here at some of the story. We talked about a lot of this realignment stuff. There was a couple others. This is all pretty much about realignment. Let me see if I can find some other stuff in the Athletic to chat about a little bit. What's this story about? Yeah. Again, this story is all about Greg Sankey stated this SEC the other day, where he really ripped into the ACC and the Pac-12 for shooting down his playoff realignment, which I mentioned. And again, they're not going to get the sweetheart deal they got before. Shame on them, man. Shame on them. Okay, what else? ACC's weighing options. We talked about that. Kirby Smart addresses Georgia's NIL deals. 95 Georgia players have received NIL money. See if there's a total in here. No, he doesn't announce a total, I guess. We talked about Alabama saying they got $3 million, which Nick Saban conveniently forgot to mention up until now. There was a story, too. I think it was Texas Tech. They have an NIL deal for every player on their team to get $25,000 from one of their NIL sponsors. So this continues to, be a story. Oh, what else, guys? Help me out. I'm going to have to cut the show short because I don't feel good. And I'm about out of stories today. There's that story there. Still some stuff to come from the SEC doing away with divisions. Probably it won't happen this year. But remember, the ACC is doing it come next year, doing away with divisions. and they'll change their whole schedule to, I believe, a 3-5-5. So there'll be 8 conference games. 3 will be rivalries they play every year. The other 5 will rotate every other year. The SEC is likely going to something similar. And I did see a note here. So far, I've seen one coach comment, Arkansas, Sam Pittman, who just got a contract extension, by the way. When that happens and Oklahoma and Texas have joined, he wants Oklahoma, Texas, and Missouri every year. Well, probably that makes sense, as Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas are kind of in a triangle of states in a way. Texas and Arkansas have a long history going back to the Southwest Conference. But the coaches don't get to decide who to get to play, right? And I'm not happy, and I can't believe the ACC coaches are really happy with the way their schedules and 3 permanent rivalry games, if you will, hashed out. Some of them make no sense to me. Some are good. Some just aren't. What we got here? If you don't feel, grab some Alka-Seltzer. Water. Just need to hydrate. Tired. I get this way about Thursday. I'm about a day ahead. Will Bryce Young be a top 5 player this season? Absolutely. Alabama, they did lose a couple of receivers, but they lose a couple of receivers every year. Bryce Harper, most likely. Let's take a quick look here. I would bet you anything that Bryce Harper is the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy in 2022. Anybody want to make a bet with me? 2022 Heisman odds. Let's check it out. First, you got to be able to type, Keith. 2022 Heisman. Is it good watching me talk about as I type? Is it exciting TV? I'm wrong. He's the second choice. Let's go through this. Well, we can't go there. It's a betting site. That's my work computer I'm using here. Anyway, I can see the top 4 here, Carlos. This is from Action Network. Probably going to get similar odds wherever you go. C.J. Stroud is the favorite at plus 250. If you're not a gambler and you wonder what that means, if you bet 100, you win $250. Bryce Young is plus 350, so he's a second choice. Caleb Williams is a third choice at plus 700. I saw some more lengthier ones here. Let me see if I can open some of this up. Here's one. Here's a futures betting on C.J. Stroud plus 200. I told you about these. Going to give me anybody else? Yeah, they're not going to list anybody else. All right. Well, anyway, there you go, Carlos. That answers your question anyway. Is he a top 5 player? Do you consider the Heisman the second choice to win the Heisman a top 5 player? Well, no, I don't think so. Rick Sherlock may disagree with me. Bryce Young is a really, really great quarterback. Surrounded by great weapons, don't get me wrong. I don't think Stetson Bennett, while he's a great player, or a very good player, and he's a championship player, I don't think he's got the tools that Bryce Young has. See if Rick has a comment on that. We only got a few minutes left here anyway. Outside chance that Coastal Carolina quarterback wins a Heisman. There's a good, trying to think of his name now, Kenny. That's a good pick. He did show up in some of these more extended ones I had. Let me see if I can look these up. These guys are like a bunch of old ladies, right? They won't stop. Oh my God. I can't find it now. Let's see. Coastal Carolina. Probably somebody's typing faster than me. Nope. Alan tonight, by the way. Must be working the late shift. Sorry to hear that, Alan. We're thinking of you if you're watching this later on. Grayson McCall. Great player. That's a good pick. You want, and I'll bet you, Kenny. I'll bet you anything You lay down a couple shekels on him, you're going to get a pretty good return if he were to win, guaranteed. Heard Caleb Williams as an underdog from a couple places. Well, like the three I just looked at, had him third choice. But again, pretty good number, plus 700. Again, you bet $10, you win 70. You bet 100, you win 700. You bet 1,000, you win 7,000. That's a pretty good number for the third choice, I think, to win the Heisman Trophy. And a guy who's going to put up some pretty good numbers probably out there in L.A. I would also take Carlos says he would take Bryce over Stroud. So would I. I think Bryce Young, again, CJ Stroud, great player. I mean, if we're going to talk about next level, I think Bryce Young's got a better chance to compete than CJ Stroud. To go to what Kenny will probably bring up next, what Ohio State quarterback has ever really made it? Justin Fields is trying to break the mold. Careful with the old lady. Some of your classmates may be listening. That's pretty funny stuff right there, Rick. I don't either. Just a cigar box. I'll probably go to DraftKings and put a little futures bet on somebody to win a national championship with a decent payout. Patriots will get a few bucks in the NFL, but let's not start that conversation. We got a few minutes left. That's it. Alabama always has more options than at Alabama. Alabama always has more options at Alabama. I'm not sure what to say there, Carlos. I guess that would be accurate for every school. Good point. Kenny, I never know which thing you're answering to. All right, guys, I think we've had a good night. I've had a blast. Thanks to you guys for joining me. And again, Carlos, I'm sorry we talked about realignment again, but it's the big story in college football. What do you want to talk about? I can't talk Heisman Trophy potentials for an hour and a half. Listen, we got to get this stuff out there. We don't talk about it on the Sunday show. We don't talk about it much on our Friday show right now, and we'll talk more about it coming up. Right now, there's a lot of other stuff to cover. On this show, though, we cover college football and only college football. What do we got here? Kenny clarifying his good point. Now you can sit and gamble, smoke pot. We can do it virtually, too, Kenny. We don't even have to be in the same room. What's on tap tomorrow? I got to work. Tomorrow morning's started up, 6 o'clock on Roku, on the Northeast Streaming Sports app. Myself and the Philly Sports Guy will be filling in for Mac again. We're going to talk the Major League Baseball draft. We're going to talk what's going on a little bit in the NFL, the NBA, whatever news of the day is to get you started. And we'll talk more and more about that. And I'm not going to talk about NILs and women's sports probably ever. Changing landscape in a women's, landscape will change for women's sports. I'm probably offending a bunch of people with my last comment. I don't mean to belittle women's sports. I love watching the softball World Series. I like watching a lot of women's sports. It's just, it's never going to be men's football or men's basketball. It's just all right, guys, been a great guy. Carlos, thank you. Kenny, Rick, Anthony, Carlos. I hate the Eagles that like Tags. Tags is a character every time. Who'd I leave out? Anybody I left out, I apologize, guys. We're going to have a great night. I'm going to take a little nap, I think, and let the house cool off, and I'm going to be going to bed. Get some sleep. I slept about 2 hours last night. And now I'm babbling. Keith Engel, TGI Sports Talks, College Football Huddle, right here on Northeast Streaming Sports. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Wednesday night. Bye-bye.